It's indeed a very, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's another morning. It's the 1st of March 2023. Tarehe ni kwanza mwezi wa 3 mwaka 2023. Hope you're doing well. Umeamka vizuri na uko tayari kuweza kuanza siku yako. Is the start called the Siasa Wednesday edition of the 1st of March. Happy New Month. It's already March. How many days to Christmas? Nerima.
I have no idea. I went blank. I'm like, hey, Christmas.
Christmas is almost here with us, just in case you didn't know.
The way the days are going, yeah.
All right, Happy New Month, folks. Have you doing well? Please, when you like, we get to know that you're watching us, and that please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. When you join, please when you we get to know that you're watching us, and that please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is the Siasa Wednesday edition of the 1st of March 2023, and it begins right now. Lakini kama kaida, mbele za Mungu tuombe. Tukiri basi tunajua nani ameweza kuamka. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you. Glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for this day. We even thank you for the guest. And we thank you for every tackler that's going to join us this morning. As we have this conversation, may it edify the Republic of this country. For you pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Aye. Actually, you're supposed to pray for us.
Mimi, why?
You didn't.
See, I'm the visitor.
The visitors also pray for us.
It is the host who prays. Even before they serve food, they pray. And then they give you food. You should have prayed for the coffee.
Okay, can you pray for the tacklers? So, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's been that long.
It's been a while.
Happy New Year.
The last time you were here was...
wow.
During elections, right?
It was elections. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a minute. Yeah.
And tayari karibu tunafika election ingine. So your cycle walks here from election to election.
It looks like, but it's been too long. It's good to be back.
Salimia tacklers.
Morning, wherever you are, maybe afternoon, good evening. Happy to be here. Hope you're well.
All right, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, they say. So good evening from wherever you are. And good morning from East Africa, Nairobi, Kenya. All right, Nerima, what's the state of the nation?
Well, I don't know what you thought about...
Okay,
I think it's tough. It's tough. Okay. And I say this because receiving my salary yesterday, I realized, I noticed that cut. I noticed that cut for NSSF. So definitely feeling the pinch. And I was busy working on budgets and trying to figure out what I'm spending. So definitely I can feel the pinch. So I would say for now, the state of the nation, people are struggling and they're really trying to find ways to use every single shilling and being wiser with their resources. For those who have it, those who don't, they're finding ways to hustle. It's tough.
But is it a bad thing to pay your NSSF, NHI, whatever you call it?
No, it's not a bad thing. You see, for me, if I'm paying it, which I am, obviously, by law, then what I would, hope or envision is that government utilizes it well. It doesn't make sense for us to keep paying because I believe because of that rise, they're going to be making an extra... Is it 7 billion shillings now? And so, we need to be able to see where is that money going? And right now, we're just hearing, we're broke, there's no resources for anything. So as soon as I can see, okay, this is where the resources are going, I'll feel better. But also, we have to recognize there are a lot of young people who are not in school right now. A lot, I think it was about 3 million it was reported. And so... that is a concern. So guys don't have resources and then more resources are being taken from us and then we're not quite seeing where the resources are going when it comes to government services. That's
but
my
now
issue.
The argument by government is, now what is the use of you saving for all your lifetime and only retire with 50,000 Kenyan shillings, as it has been the case? You only contribute 200 shillings a month. So by the time you're retiring with probably 50,000 to 70,000 Kenyan shillings. How much can you do as a retiree with that money?
But even when we think about retirees, what are they doing? I'm not saying they don't need the money. I think what is of importance is access to healthcare. For me, because as people age, their health begins to get even worse, and you want to be able to go to a good hospital. A good hospital with good medication and no pay. So I think, yes, I agree. great, have better retirement benefits. But I think hand in hand, most of us who are dealing with aging parents or we have relatives who are aging, we get bombarded with hospital bills. I need support to do this surgery for my auntie. I need support to do this surgery for my friend's mom. That's where we should focus on, because we all know as we age, our bodies also age and we need access to health. And so there are two ways of looking at it. And if you have a good retirement benefit, but you're spending most of that money in the hospital because you're going to private hospitals because they are better and they have medication, then you're going back to the square, back to ground zero, where the money you have saved is going back into healthcare.
Okay, all right. Mama Mutinda, good morning to you, Mama Mutinda. Good be doing well. Mungalita continue. Morning, tuning in from Convent, United Kingdom. Good to be part of this morning Siasa Wednesday edition. Asante sana. John Diki Wanaina, hi all. Good morning to you, John Diki Wanaina. Bomet ni sisi, Nico live from Bomet. Asante. Babake really good morning to you. Sir Evans Kipchichir. Morning, Gerald. Happy New Man, my brother. Itura Watuga, live this show. Thank you so much. Without you, we could never be. Eras Nation. Okay. This is a bit strong. But anyway, Kikuyu's entitlement is seen. Fair trade, lower prices, have good relationship with the customers is key. Okay? And Dong Kevo Arab Kuwait, our wananchi wako sawa kabisa mkuu. Asante. Nelvin Shivairo Shafora Asena Musil. Haning asante Dong. Good morning mkuu. Salimia huyo mrembo na umuuliza akiongea kuhusu pia umuuliza kama ako soko. Ilianda bwana. Kiptoke Victor, good morning Gerald, good morning to you. Starlet Thames, morning Gerald, good morning. Patrick Kimngeno, the state has failed. First, did Kenya Kwanza give the wrong manifesto? It's a challenge based on current economic situation, which is limping around high taxes, high cost of living. When will this end? Development and politics are becoming just petty, empty promise. Kenyans are becoming tired of this, and it's the first fresh days. Wrong. Something is wrong. Okay. Kipruta Arab Sang, good morning, Gerald. Good morning to my brother Daniel Koret. Good morning, Gerald. Good morning, Edwin Machuki. Good morning, Gerald from Abu Dhabi. Asante sana to Abu Dhabi. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Davis Kalman, good to see you. It's been a while, Davis. Niko ndani. Asante sana. Thanks you so much for joining us this morning. Now, just picking up from where one of our viewers has actually picked up on, it's Patrick Kimngeno, and he's saying the issues of all the activities that are going on within and outside government. There's a feeling that where the government and the opposition is playing too much politics over progress and development. Where do you think we are? Do you think the opposition is putting its focus in the right places? And also, do you think the government is also putting its focus in the right places? What do you feel about administration and governance as it is? Since you're in that space.
Yeah, no, I'm in the space. And before we went on air, I told you how this period for me, I haven't been following the news as much as I normally would be, just because everything seems so politicized. Everything is political, but this time around, things seem very politicized. And I say this because even when we look at the global dynamics of things, there are several things that are happening globally where our very own government needs to be concerned. When you hear that we are having conversations about barter trade, right? In terms of having barter trade with Islamabad for rice and tea leaves. And that just shows you that the dollar is something that is not doing well. And it's going to have an impact.
The dollar or the Kenyan shilling?
Oh, the dollar is not doing well, and also the Kenyan shilling. And it's going to have an impact in the globe. And when we see our leaders, it seems that we're still in public rallies. It seems like we're going into an election where Kenyans are being told, pick a side. We've already passed that moment. There's no side we can pick. This is the government of the day, and that's the government of the day. And opposition is building its base to be opposition, but we have to be asking the tough questions because, yes, people are concerned about the economy, but what is the government currently doing trying to touch on the economy? I would have liked to see more conversations around the traders, around the agreements that we have, especially with China, for instance, and opposition coming out clearly and showing that perhaps this was not done well, this is the better way to do it, or being part of the task force to make sure that government makes these agreements well. But what we're seeing is a lot of collections of people and people who already have biases on the terms and the times and the place where they stand and not necessarily speaking out of reasoning. Kenyans, we are tired. We're so exhausted. I think we're still dealing with political burnout. I am. And for someone who's in the space, if I feel burnt out, I can't even imagine the average Kenyan citizen. There are many of them who have just chosen to clock out and just lock out from all of this. And they are more concerned about what will it mean for me to have more resources in my pocket. And that's not what's being answered. That's not what's being discussed. That's not what's being pushed on the tables right now. So no, I don't think either side is doing enough right now.
So how much is the government doing to be government? Because there's been also an argument that the government has failed to transition from campaigns and it's still stuck there.
Yes.
It's still stuck there in the campaign mode. How much do you think the government is doing to ensure that it can actually be government and you can feel that the things are moving within government and moving within the country and there can be enough public confidence in the activity of governance?
I think if government spoke less, we have a very talkative government at the moment, having opinions on everything, and sometimes things that are personal and not of our concern as citizens. So when you want to be able to see impact, someone doesn't have to speak and show you and say, I am doing so much, look at what I'm doing, take a look over there, just look at it. If there was impact, the Kenyan people would feel it without you even speaking it. And sometimes I do think that this government needs to begin to practice silence. They are over-talking, and the problem with over-speaking is you tend to share too much, and sometimes you appear as if you don't know what you're saying. You become repetitive, and then the institution, the administration looks confused because you have one representative say something, and then someone comes out and negates it. So it's giving them a very bad image when they have too much access to comms. And this, for me, right now, we're in a period where people, like I said, are concerned about their basic needs. They want to be able to work enough to have food on the table. People are concerned about their children being in school. Like I mentioned previously, there are a lot of children who aren't. People are concerned about paying for school fees in a system that they don't fully trust. We haven't even talked about CBC and the challenges that it has brought. So there are just so many different dynamics that what we need to be seeing is people who are focused and focusing in their areas and bringing results. So less talk and more action is what Kenyans need right now.
Okay. All right, let's look at the newspapers, straight off to the newspapers, then we come back. Also, in Nigeria, they've actually elected is it Nate here?
It's official.
Yeah. Kimetangazwo.
I saw it and I thought
what's your feeling before you go to the newspapers? What's your feeling? Because Nigeria is a population that has the highest young people. Actually.
Yes.
It's made up of majorly young people. But it's all elections you've had older folks with. Very old, not just old, extremely old. Yes. Very old folks. Now, even the hobby that they were singing about is number 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
what do you make of that? The politics of Africa and the reflection of its aspirations?
Of Africa. Nigeria, first of all, was a complicated election just because of the insecurity. So there are some areas where the voting process was quite difficult, but also the turnout is normally not as good as Kenya. In fact, they normally praise us for having a 50% and over turnout. And in their last election, they had a 30% turnout. So as much as the majority population is young, it doesn't mean that the majority population votes or registers to vote. So it doesn't surprise me that the individual who was elected is older, because the youth are not at the ballot. There was a higher turnout of young people, but they are not the majority at the ballot. So congratulations to whoever was elected.
Kwani, so you're saying there are younger people who turned up?
No.
What is the story? Because what is the difference between turning up and winning an election? I thought when you turn up, you vote.
No. It is a huge difference. The difference
like in Kenya, the difference is we didn't show up to vote.
Yes.
Most young people didn't show up to vote. Now in Nigeria, a lot of young people showed up to vote. And I would imagine that being the largest population, I mean, they would have played a role in deciding.
But Bitok, in Kenya, we had almost 22 million people register, right? Mm-hmm. It's not that young people didn't show up. First of all, that number is a mix. It's not just young people. Mm-hmm. It's 8 million people had registration cards and they didn't turn up. And it's not just youth. It's a mix. Mm-hmm. For Nigeria itself, when you're talking about a country that has over 90 million people, the ballot boxes themselves are 100,000 and something. And the majority population, yes, is young. Mm-hmm. But the turnout in the last election was 30%. So we're still having a country where in a majority youth population, the minority is the one that selects the leadership. Okay. So we had a rise of young people registering, but still not large, a very small number actually registered. But that small number could not determine the vote. So it doesn't surprise me of the outcome. Okay. It doesn't.
It doesn't surprise you. All right, before I also got the newspaper, some of the news that we've had this week, of course, is the decision by the Supreme Court. Is it High Court? Okay. On
what?
On same-sex relationships.
Oh, that's what you're like, what's happening? Like, did we lose network?
And lesbianism, maybe, and gayism and all that. And their rights to associate and operate and all that. What do you mean? There's been an outcry from the churches, of course, and a number of societies. I've also seen there's been some outro from some lawyers, that report from Kitale. I mean, there's been some outro across the country from churches and other institutions. What do you make of that? What do you think?
You're going to find my comment interesting. Mm-hmm. So...
I think I can already...
What do you think my comment is going to be?
The court is right.
The law is very clear. Anyway, because this is the test of our constitution. Okay. You know, we keep repeating, it's progressive. Uh-huh. And then we clearly don't understand what that actually means. So my organization, we focus on constitutionalism. Yeah. Uh-huh. So Siasa Place, even our values, there are 6. Number 1 is constitutionalism. And you will always see it in our office when you walk in. And we have this debate in the office all the time. What does the Constitution say? What does the Constitution say?
About what?
About everything. Because the Constitution is the Bible of our country.
Okay.
It's the Bible of our country. And the Constitution basically says that humans, citizens, have rights. They have rights. There is no line in our Constitution that says if an individual is of same sex, if an individual is a homosexual, there is no line that says that. Because it does not say that. There's no way that the court can now start saying that you are stopped from being able to register an entity. There's no way. So that reading did not surprise me. And the church does have to respond in that manner because of their beliefs. Okay. The church is here because the Constitution gives them the freedom to have those beliefs, the freedom of association, the freedom of engagement. These groups are asking for the very same freedoms. They are not interfering. Yeah. And so for me, that's all I'm going to say. As long as the Constitution says that they have the right to, then they have the right to. Unless you're going to come and now change the Constitution and include that. What are your thoughts, Bitok?
Yeah,
I know your
I'm not
thoughts.
supposed to give my thoughts.
I want to know because I would really like to know.
I think it depends on the argument that people are having, really. But I'm the belief that now this is me just giving my opinion. I'm of the belief that you see we are heterosexuals, whatever it is we have, but it's our business. Like we We don't ask for space to sit in town and say the way I love Nerima and all that, and show you love in public on Uru Park. I mean, there's a problem in now. The conversation is being brought because it's becoming it's social politics, in the sense that it has a feel of a campaign more than a feel of rights. Because you asking for your rights does not mean that you also need to interfere in the space of those who are normal, or not normal in the sense, quote unquote, who are living in a setup that has been accepted as normal. So you can mind your business. We don't need to know your business. I don't know what you did this morning before you came here. You don't know what I did this morning. You don't know who I was with. It's not the business of government. It's not a business of the public. So I think those are things that are very personal. Your sexual orientation it doesn't shout about what you do things. They can work, they can come here, they can argue on things that matter to the country and any other area of life without necessarily, it's not a disability as such that you can be seen. So you can live with your life. Your sexual life can be private. You can live it there. I have a problem with how it does a feel of a campaign. That you want us to accept you more. You want to shape the way we behave as well. All these things. We all have rights to bring up our children the way we want. For instance, you have your child. If you think you want to bring up your child in such a way, it's fine. Also allow me to do that without you thinking that you have more rights than I do. Without you putting yourself in a space where you think you should influence my orientation as well. So I don't have a problem with people congregating in whichever way the Constitution actually gives everybody the space to do that. Like you said, it doesn't define citizens. It says we all have room to think and to operate in a way that we want.
Yeah.
But then again, there's even something called indecency. Do you know you can actually be prosecuted and sued, maybe for even 5 years? You can actually be in jail for 5 years for indecent acts, like maybe having sex in public.
Yeah.
Like having sex in Uru Park.
Yeah.
You go there and try it. Just mean that you'll go in jail for 5 years. There's someone who is in jail. I saw there's a story, someone's in jail for 10 years for sending nudes and all that. So, there's a law that governs everything. That governs even the heterosexuals and the other people. All the other regular people. There's a law that governs all of those people. So you don't need to feel like yours is so special. Like you can fit in and do your things, get into relations that you want. If you want to date a woman, Nerima, you don't have to tell us.
Okay.
Just go date a woman, do your things at home, and you leave the rest of us out of it.
Yeah, no, I totally.
So I think the biggest problem is how it's being run. Even there's been a lot of speculations between how the West has controlled Africa in terms of narrative. Because most of these things, the pressure that is coming in on accepting these things is coming from the West. Look at the narratives that are being driven by international media houses. For instance, I saw an interview in Uganda being run, I think, by CNN or something, and you're telling them the gay people want a meeting with you. This is the president in Africa, in Uganda. You came in from the West. You came in from America, probably. But somehow, you think you already know people who are in this space and you want them to have an audience with the government. So my problem is the campaign that it brings out. I think as much as they have the rights, we also have our rights. Yeah. We have our rights to be protected from your private maneuvers. You also have your rights for you to be protected from my private maneuvers. Even me and you being heterosexuals. I want to believe so. You have a right for you to be protected from me, from my influence. And I have a right of myself to be protected from your influence. So I don't have a problem with what people choose to do in their private spaces, wherever. If it was a disability and you're saying you're being discriminated because you don't have one leg, or you don't have two legs, or your head is facing backwards, we would say your rights are being violated as a human being. But if it is something that you can do on your own space and coexist in your own personal, there are people who choose a lot of things. There are people who choose not to have children. They're not giving us a campaign. There are people who choose not to have sex, to remain celibate. They're not giving us a campaign. There are people in charge, please to do or saying we are not going to marry for their own personal reasons. There are thousands and hundreds of personal reasons that people make every single day without making it a campaign. So if we have to make it a campaign, then there is a problem because we also want to be in our space without being invited. And you are free to do what you want to do. And also, I think the West should stop. The West should stop prevailing over African countries to change the way they look at things. and let it come in. Let it graduate slowly. Let Africa finish its own revolution. Even when you're speaking about the economy, even switching into what you're seeing, the chaos that you're seeing now, that is seeing now in the country, on the issues of China coming in and setting up business, and the local traders who have no other option apart from importing from China are fighting the same Chinese. They're manufacturing there.
Yeah.
Now, the West has continued to tell us that we need to remain where we are. As Africa, we have not yet even achieved our fourth industrial revolution, which is manufacturing and industrialization. The West has finished that path. Now they are done with their manufacturing. They're done with their industries. Now they're coming back to tell us, first of all, you cannot industrialize because you're polluting the environment. You plant trees.
Yeah,
well, they pollute the environment and all that. So what happens is that we remain as a consumer economy.
Yeah.
So they want us to remain being a consumer economy. We don't realize our dreams because to them, we are spoiling them. We're polluting the world, for instance. They are leading in pollution. Look at coal, for instance. The other time we wanted to set up a coal plant in Lamu to give us cheaper power. The biggest crisis in Africa is power. Yeah. So we are like, for us to industrialize the way you've done it, we need to use the path that you've used. And we are going to set up a coal plant, for instance, to give cheaper power. Guess what they do? The West comes in and saying, no. It has been, not phased out, it has been phased out. They said we are not going to use coal anymore, it's destroying the environment, global warming and all that. But they used it. When you go to America, factories run on coal. Nobody talks about it. So I think as Africans as well, we need to start interrogating the kind of thinking that we get from the West. The kind of activism that we get from the West. And as much as we must agree that we have our own problems and we need to find our own ways of actually fixing them and ensuring that we have an independence of mind, as it is Africa now is not independent in terms of mind. We are not taking our campaigns to the West. They gave us the Bible, they gave us Christianity. Now they're coming back to turn against it. In England, they're turning churches into clubs. So they come back here. I think we need to allow people to allow us to live the way we want. We'll give you space to live the way you want. Don't give us your campaigns. Don't influence us.
So I've understood. I get your point, and I see your point. And there's an experience that I saw during our election, and there is some part of it where it feels in your face, but there's also a part of it where what you're saying, give us the space, give us the room, is the same thing that they're saying, give us the space, give us the room. And I say this because during voter registration, there's a group that came out. In Kenya, you can't really advocate unless you have an entity to advocate around. You have to be recognized as either a CBO, an organization, something, to be able to push for the cause that you feel is important for you. And so their concern was not being able to register around an issue that they feel is important for them. And I'll give you an example of our election, where I was part of a meeting that...
But even before you move, what are the issues? Why is it that us as
I'm giving you an example.
We don't have? Because I've never had... Look at the case for Chiloba, for instance.
Yes.
When that guy was killed, what was the first uproar? That Kenya is anti-LGBTQ community.
Yeah, that was the first.
Killed them.
People were...
Now, when it came out that it's the boyfriend who killed him, everyone went quiet. Yeah. Those guys have not come out to speak again about it. So what exactly are the issues? As heterosexuals, are we having CBOs because of our sexuality?
No, because it's not an issue. Because it's not an issue for heterosexuals.
What is the issue?
So that's why I'm telling you, like the election, I was part of a meeting, and there are some who felt that, for instance, they are not comfortable being referenced as a female. They want to be male, right? And so they want to change their own name. They want to be able to change that in their ID. And in Kenya, you can't do that. Okay, so the lines become blurred because you're saying you're a citizen, you're free, do what you want. I want to change my name, but I want to change my name to a man. And those are the debates and questions that are coming to the table now that government is going to have to answer. Can a citizen who wants to change their name be allowed to change their name? Because you can if you want. You can write an affidavit and you can add your nickname as a superstar here in Kenya. A lot of our celebrities do that. It's not the name they were born with. But they go and they change their name to match their stage name. But someone who is of different sexual orientation can't. So to you, it might not seem like an issue, but it's an issue for them.
So let me ask you, have you been to Central Kenya?
Have I been?
To Central Kenya?
Yes.
How many men have you met who are called by women names? Wamboi, Njeri.
Yes, by their mothers.
How many men have you met who are called like that?
Yeah, there are many.
Okay.
There are many. But what I'm talking about is a reality where IEBC had whole conversations around if a person wants to be able to change their name, can they be allowed to change their name? And right now, we don't have answers to those questions. And that has stopped a large number of people. In fact, Kenyans might not be happy with it, but it is there. It's like saying, let's just pretend this thing is not there and just force issues. It's there. You can choose how you want to behave around it or not, but it's there. It's like saying, I don't believe in the wind, but you can feel it. The wind is there. That's what you're breathing. So that is the reality at the moment. And for me, what I'm seeing, there are some people who are taking advantage of the situation, but there are others who genuinely have real causes where they do not feel free. They do not feel safe, and they do not feel that they have the capacity to associate the way they want because of how Kenyans or a lot of people view them. And this is worth debate. I think for a country that is having this debate, it's a mature state. But I also agree with you that there are things that come from the West that are not of us. But we have a very small window to be able to stop that. Because even when we use our phones, our devices, what we see on social media, it's based on what the global north finds funny, what they find important. Those algorithms are pre-planned. And these platforms have a God mode that decide what you will see. And so they are already in our minds. They are already defining what's important to us and what isn't. Can the government make a stronger stance? Yes. Are countries doing that? Yes. And that's why you have countries like India talking about removing TikTok, and countries like the US debating whether it should be removed and why the military doesn't use TikTok. But when you come down to Kenya, when we see how negotiations are made, especially around policies, it's not about the people first. It's not about protecting our mind. It's not about protecting our children and the future of this country. It's not. It's about which individual will benefit from a particular deal much more, and how long can I benefit from it before I agree to this deal.
So talking about the presence of this thing that you're calling, it's a culture that we cannot run away from, and it is a development that we cannot hide from. You're saying it's like hiding from the wind that you can feel it. Why is it that we are not seeing these campaigns being taken to Dubai? You're not seeing being taken to Qatar. You're not seeing being taken to India that we just mentioned. You've not seen these campaigns being taken there. You're not seeing these campaigns being taken to China. You're not seeing these campaigns being taken to those countries that I mean, they have their own frame of developmental frame and somehow have a way they manage their affairs. Why is it that we are not having these campaigns? In Qatar, for instance, when you had a World Cup, 2022.
Yes, there was an uproar.
Yes, they spoke very strongly that this is a culture we are not going to accept. They were not sanctioned, but tried in Kenya. Yeah. Someone somewhere just dies out of their own causes and whatever it is, or someone gives an opinion on these people, and you are sanctioned. You find Western sanctions and all that. Qatar spoke very strongly, and they actually locked out people who were trying to do it. Some people were arrested. Did you hear any sanctions? Did the World Cup proceed and continue in Qatar? How old is Qatar compared to African countries in its own way? So while we accept that when we become so vulnerable and say there's nothing we can do, ask yourself, why are they not taking those campaigns there? Why are they not influencing those countries?
The campaigns are there. I have partners that we work with in India. And India is a completely complicated situation because there are some aspects of culture where it is accepted in some parts of India. But it goes back to the government of the day, the administration, the goodwill, the executive. You can only do.
So why are they not getting sanctions for it?
Government, because the government supports. Here, I just started this whole conversation on our constitution. What does our Bible say in this our country of ours? That's the Bible we've got. That's the constitution we've got. Dubai doesn't have the same constitution we do. So I think Kenyans are beginning to realize that, hey, enyewe, this document, kumbe, it is progressive. Because it would have been clearly written in our very constitution that in this Kenya of ours, this is our beautiful land. Because we always say the sovereign power belongs to the people. It does not define who people are. It does not say it is the 44 tribes and they are male and they are female and they have to be within their borders. It doesn't. And so because of that, that is what the courts will use and that's what the courts are using. And it's very powerful. And I think this is how now we're debating about it right now. But when you talk about the countries you're talking about, they have very different laws, very strict laws.
So our problem is the law.
Yes, they even prohibit alcohol, which us we cannot even fathom alcohol being prohibited in Kenya. We cannot. So we're very different countries. Yeah, with very different laws. If it's something that is not supposed to be done, it will be in the law. This is not in the law.
All right.
It's not.
Okay, you win. I don't know what you guys think about that ruling. I don't know what you guys think about that specific ruling on that issue. I don't know what you guys think. Kipruta Rapsa, good morning, Gerald. Good morning. Edwin Mashuki, good morning, Gerald from Apita. Happy good to see you. Paul Kipyaga, good morning, Gerald. Tuned in from Kiambu. John Kaptum, good morning, Gerald. It seems 2027 campaigns are started in earnest. Very unfortunate. Good to see you, Dianing Redida. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Kiptanu Yego, it's simple. Time to walk the talk. The president should act more and speak less. Okay? Martin, good to see you. Judy Chebet, Nerima Wako, ako tops, asante. Belinda Chesira, the recent Supreme Court ruling on LGBTQ reflects a clash between law and morality. And I don't know what takes over in such a case. Ruta Kim, how do we choose between social rights and our norm, culture? Are we borrowing too much from the Western? Brian Moge, good morning, Gerald, following asante Sarah, just as Musha. Socially acceptable, it is the association socially acceptable among the Kenyan communities. If not, let them practice their stuff under the carpet, where they are only socially acceptable, their stuff. If they rub it against us, we'll definitely subject them to misery. Okay. Munga Lita, continue. Good observation, Gerald. Good to see you. Munga Luther from the UK. Jacob Benjamin, good morning. Following Asante. The government has so many complex issues to deal with. A person wanting to change a name belongs to registration of persons. Hey, Larry Komonori, good morning, Gerald. Dini from Jessica Contractors, Eldoret office. Good to see you, my brother. It's been a while. I haven't seen you in some time. Tuitham Baune, the court ruling made me see Ruta's hand on it. It is silence means a lot, but let's wait for Kaluma's bill. Okay. Kaluma's taken a bill to ban them. Kevin Kipkorir said there is no TikTok in India since 2020. Okay. Kabon Sarah watching from Eldoret. Asante. Kabon Sarah, I don't know what you think about the ruling by the Supreme Court on the LGBTQ community. But Brian Sengeli, let's avoid this morality absurdity. Zep, I think it is mental illness. And now these are guys in America. Zeb is in America, actually.
Mental illness. Well, I lived there for 7 years, so...
Yeah, in America for 7 years.
Yeah. I do not miss it.
What did you miss it? You don't miss it?
No.
Why?
You really work. I mean, there's nothing... You work for the dollar.
So she doesn't kazi.
It's just too kazi. Even the social life, you miss that closeness of family. It's just not a very humane environment to live in. And then you find that a lot of Americans are just not knowledgeable about the world. So it's a very secluded world unless you build your own family around it and, you build a system. But if you're coming from the ground and working from your way up, it's tough. Then once you get to another mid-level, it gets better. It gets better. But there was a time I was working, I think, 3 jobs in one day. So
to earn how many million?
To earn just a few peanuts to pay rent. You're sleeping like 3 hours or something. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah. But for the people there, keep at it. Keep the hustle.
Jacob Aliet is a red pill ambassador. I wish you invited me. I need to talk to this lady.
You can have another one-on-one. if you invite us.
Kimaliel Babaya, we don't have a Kenyan constitution. We have a photocopy from the West. Patrick, let's pray for our country a lot of ways. The issue of China Square, I can say it's not the best decision, but the CS to close. Look at the rate of Kenya youth unemployment. It's a very high of 70%. Now the mall is closed. Where are they going? Are they getting jobs to meet their daily bread? In Kenya, if Kenya don't need investors, then they should give time and notice to investors to settle the same case to employees. Our youths are desperate with jobs. Please, we are tired with government fake promises. Yeah. All right, let's just dive in straight into that.
Yeah.
So yesterday we had a demonstration by traders. They call themselves small traders from Gikomba and Kamukunji. They invaded the streets of Harambee House, went to the Rigidi's office. Kisa na maana China Square. What are your thoughts? Do they have a case?
Yes, they do. They do. There needs to be some sense of control because so Shujaz is releasing a report today on their website. So managed to be part of the pre-launch yesterday, and there are some interesting statistics. And they mainly focus on young people. So they normally have at least 2,000 interviews with youth between the age of 18 to 24 every year. So in comparison to 2017 and 2022, the stats say that most young people in 2017, they were asked, how many of you work on the side to support your parents? So that number in 2017 was about 45% of us. We do like a side hustle. I sell shoes on Instagram or something to be able to support my parents. When they were asked that question in 2022, that number jumped to 100%. All of them are now doing a side hustle. So what does that mean? Parents are now not able to support in any form or fashion. Yani, they've just told their children, ujitegemee. So here on out, you're on your own. And then another interesting statistic was 95% of them are the informal sector. So that number is so high because we're seeing that when you look at the education levels of Kenya, most young people are going through school, are going through education, but they hope to get employment in, say, a white-collar job or working in an office or something. But now we are seeing that the normal is informal. So these China businesses are eating up the opportunity in the informal. So if 95% of our youth are in the informal, they are now going to be competing with countries like China. So it's very important that there's bilateral agreements where there's a balance, where yes, we have this trade or we're able to have investment from China and they're able to come and set up businesses. But how do we set it up to where they are not ruining or disabling the market for Kenyans? Because for Kenyan youth, based off of the Shujaz research, basically that is the only space that they have. So at least the research ended by saying that 83% of young people are actually hopeful that they will be able to find better opportunities and have a brighter future. So they are hopeful. So the government should focus on that energy. How are we able to have a balance or some form of coordination to where China is not swallowing? They're not swallowing markets. And because this is their only livelihoods, when we see the amount of jobs government is able to channel out, it's not enough. When we have over 1 million young people being, produced from universities to go work, there are not enough jobs. And so if we're all coming into the informal, those who are educated and those who are not, then we're going to have a very young population that is going to be agitated and they need to find a way to control. So a working mind is a safe mind. So I feel that the way the conversations are going, agreements have not been done properly because we've seen in our neighboring countries how China has come and taken over infrastructure and taken over. I think I was watching a documentary about some country in the West. I don't know if it was Senegal, where people just got tired and just went and started removing Chinese merchants physically, just removing them because the government was not doing enough. And we don't want to see that in Kenya, where Kenyans are saying it's enough, the government's not doing enough, our people don't have enough money in their pockets because China is able to produce material or commodities that are cheaper, and Kenyans prefer to buy those commodities because they look better than the Kenyans, which is probably better quality but more expensive for them.
Let me ask you now, this is in an era of open markets. In an era of open markets, global open markets, and the fact that the global world trades within itself across board. We also trade with China. We export agricultural things. We talk about avocados.
Yeah, avocados.
And that goes in there. Now, when we talk about what are the effects of this kind of business profiling in the face of global trade, what are the consequences that we are likely to suffer?
The consequences would be, hopefully it doesn't get to a boycott, but we have seen countries like Rwanda manage business better. We can learn. The fact that for Rwandan businesses, you have to have a Rwandan citizen at the level of director to be able to even start any business in the country is key, because it's about bringing the resources back in. There's also conversations around taxation. We see a lot of behind closed doors engagements and negotiation where monies are not coming from taxes enough. And even the monies that come from taxes, we're not seeing it going into services. So I think there is a need for control. Because even the China that you're talking about, see those guys, they were closing their boundaries and focusing on the Chinese people. That's what they did first. So they closed off and they said, we're going to work on ourselves, invest in ourselves. Then when we have enough money, let's go conquer the world. That's what they did. So it's something that they should be able to understand, that a country has to put its interests first and then look at the global landscape of things and decide how can we be a global player and what would that partnership look like? Because at the rate our countries are going, and this is something that China has mastered. You see, the West, when they still give aid, they give aid with their controls in place. Like, we're going to give you this money, but make sure you pay it in this time. We're going to give you this money, but make sure it also goes here. There's a bit of micromanagement. China doesn't have that. They just come and they say, you want a road? A big one. I will put a big one. Because they understand African leaders. Leaders want things that are visible, that when the Kenyan citizen sees, they're like, by the way, hizi barabara ni uhunye. Uhuru did work. He did work. Look at these roads. Kenyans are not questioning how expensive those roads were, even though some of them were overcharged. And the fact that many of the engineers in that project were Chinese, not Kenyans. They're not questioning that. So that's where I feel the Kenyan government has lost its power. When it comes to negotiating with China, they see the money first, they don't ask questions, and they're satisfied. They should be concerned, why are they not asking questions? Where is the control? Because there's control. No one gives you money just to give you money.
This glass here, where is it made in Kenya?
I don't know.
You don't know.
It's made in Kenya. Are you even sure? That box probably says China.
This is made in Kenya.
Are you sure?
I'm asking you, is it made in Kenya?
Me, I don't think so. It could be made in China.
Where likely do you think it's made in?
China.
So as a consumer, if I wanted this glass, what options do you have? Yeah. Because you're telling us not to buy Chinese products.
Yeah, I see what
but you end up you still end up importing from there. As a consumer, what matters to me? Buying a glass, right?
Yeah.
If I can get it at a cheaper price, the better for me.
Yeah.
So even as you're talking about protecting the trader, who protects the consumer? Because even the consumer has rights. Because you're telling me the only confession that these guys are saying, the traders, is that they've been exploiting us. Yeah. The demos is a message that they've been exploiting us, because they will not have a problem competing. If you've been giving us fair prices on products, then you don't need to demonstrate. You don't need to fight.
Yeah.
You should be open for competition, because even as we're having this argument, are we having an alternative in terms of manufacturing? Are we setting up industries? Are we setting up industries? What are we doing? Because China can afford to lock itself because it's self-sufficient. It can manufacture the things that they want. But can you manage to close up Kenya and say, no, we don't want any external interference. We want to consume our things and build up from. Can you survive it?
No, we can't.
You cannot survive. You're importing rice. The same guys, the same CS.
Yeah, from Pakistan.
Was talking about importing food products.
Yeah.
So at what point do we draw the line from imports? And what alternatives are we giving to the consumer? Because if the traders can consume it, can actually demonstrate in their minority, what if also the consumers we demonstrate in our majority and say we are exploited, we want products at a cheaper price. So where is the line between protecting trade and protecting also the consumer?
I agree with you in terms of we need to be able to support the manufacturing because even, I'm not sure, this desk, is it made in Kenya?
The desk is made in Kenya, but the mbao is not made in Kenya either.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised. Yeah. And a lot of even our office
Material.
desks, and material is not from Kenya. And I do have, people or friends who work within that sector. And the main concern is they are able to produce, but then they don't have enough factories to produce in mass. And so there is a challenge. And that's why I said there has to be a balance in terms of this partnership. Because if we are not careful, if government is not careful, everything in the stores will now be Chinese. There's some aspect of some common, not everything. There's some things made in Kenya. There are some things made in Kenya. But if this continues in this route...
I'm trying to find something which is not made in China.
I know, it's crazy.
What is not made in China? Maybe the serviette.
Maybe just
but
check.
Even the pepper,
I will
maybe
check
the pepper
the
is
serviette. Is it?
It's made in China, but
is it?
Maybe the pepper is made in China. It's the materials.
It's a bit scary.
So, I mean, it's up to, for me, the point is it's very hypocritical because the leaders are not giving us a solution to our problem. Our solution is consumer. We are a consumer economy. So if you are telling us that we move away from these products,
not completely. I said there just needs to be a
control. Is, at the end of the day, we are going to use them. So, and those I'm asking you, if as a consumer, actually, honestly, I'd never heard about that mall. I had never heard about it in my whole life until China Square came. And I was like, maybe I need to search it on Google Maps and go there. I had never heard about it because I'm a consumer. So as a consumer, I would want to imagine where I can get the things that
everything.
Because we are still importing. All the things that you're seeing, you have imported.
Yeah.
So if I can get them closer home, what would be my choice? Would it be to buy the higher price in Kamukunji just to protect a guy that I think is there as a consumer, or I would go there and buy it at the price that I think is favorable to me as a consumer? Yeah,
but you see, your reasoning is just now. You want this thing and you want it now. The ripple effect is the stats that I shared with you. Okay. The fact that every year we're channeling out at least 1 million unemployed young people. This is a scary problem for our government. And there are no opportunities. I just shared with you that 95% of our young people are in the informal.
So by closing the mall, how many job opportunities have they created?
Yeah,
because there are people who have been fired there.
Yes, there are people who have been fired, but I don't think they've closed it entirely. So I think that there needs to be negotiation. It's not going to be closed. That mall will exist. Okay. It will continue to function. But the government has to form a way where they're supporting now the informal sector to be able to compete because competition is healthy. I like competition. So you're able to decide which product you actually want. But monopoly makes things expensive. So I'm not saying that we completely remove all Chinese products because we won't be able to. What I'm saying is there needs to be better control and there needs to be factories in terms of having access to opportunities for our youth. This is the only place that we have left. And if the government is not keen, they're going to have a very agitated majority population very soon that is hungry. And when you have hungry and angry people together, they are not going to be able to manage this country.
But the question is, our traders also willing to reduce their prices? I think that's another question. Are they willing to reduce their prices?
They will be forced to. They will be forced to. Once competition comes into the market, they will have to think outside their box and they'll be forced to reduce their prices.
Bunge la mwenye nchini kwa nambari 0731027727 o 731 wale watu ambao walikuwa wanauliza bunge liko wazi o 0731027727. Karis John Wako, kindly research more on Chinese bees in Africa, USA, Europe, etc. China town retail bees are in most every country including USA, Britain, etc. Chinese trajectory is unstoppable. Actually, the same one mall, China Square, it has outlets in 13 African countries.
Wow.
Yes, 13 African countries. Karis John, China is not swallowing anybody's bees. It is the government which is not working for the young bees. Your statistics don't make any sense. How do you manufacture at 39 Kenya shillings per kilowatt? There's no laws barring retail for rain bees. Miniso is also retailing. China Square, Kenya will relocate to Uganda, just like all the investors are doing. Kabonsara, Gerald, give us time kidogo tu on studio. Kabonsara, 0731027727. Mefungua bunge, 0731027727. Bunge liko wazi, nambari ni 0731027727. Zab, your argument about America is somehow biased. So many factors determine how you live in America: your profession, the city you live in, your personality, people to hang around with. I've lived here 15 years. I have to travel to Kenya twice a year, etc. I also work on one job 3 days in a week. Tell our young people to study when they come here. I think your guest worked a minimum entry job. I don't know.
That's what I said.
Even
I said if you're on the ground up.
Yeah, even with my 15 years of life here, I still don't understand America fully. It's a country of 300 million plus people. Even a scientific study will give a true picture of America life. So your guest is incorrect to claim she knows America.
I didn't say okay.
But
I did say minimum wage, and I did come in at the age of 17, and I was there for 7 years, and my experience is many Kenyans' experience. And I did share that if you've lived there for a while and you're higher up, it's a better way of living. But if you're on the ground, it's not. And that's just the way it is in Kenya. If you're rich in Kenya, so you'll have a good life. The Kenya for the rich persons is different from the Kenya who doesn't have access to things. They'll talk about different Kenyas. But we're in the same Nairobi.
He's the rich American.
Sindio. 3 days a week. Must be a good life. 3 days a week.
You should adopt me. Bouncing baby boy. All right. Rotich Kips Evans, Moses Kuria is protecting Mama Mboga. Those who sell in the streets, not the few in the malls, counters, China Square to be particular, right? Let's pray for our country. The issue of China Square can say it's not the least decision, but I think I read that as well. Kamau Kiko, bro, invite me to chapa story. Karibu sana. Quiet Jeremy, good job Nerima Wako. Sante and Colum. What is the repercussions of closing the Chinatown in terms of global trade and international diplomacy? I think we've somewhat spoken on that. Karis John, Gerald, can you invite real manufacturers next time? Unless you open a manufacturing plant, then you have an idea how huge the cost of energy and logistics for Kenya is. Actually, I'm looking for manufacturers because the CS for MITI said that he wants to change the Kenya Association of Manufacturers into Kenya Association of Importers. So I'm looking for. And the they're importing everything.
They are.
What exactly are they manufacturing? Alright, wala watu walikuwa wanauliza namba ya bunge. Namba ya bunge iko wazi, lakini ni kama mmeenda usingizi. Namba ya bunge liko wazi 0731027727 0731027727 0731027727. Bunge liko wazi 0731027727. Alright, tuangalia magazeti. Daily Nation. Right, scores public rates cabinet secretaries poorly with Professor Kindiki leading with 27%. Okay, you're the top student. CBC ya serikali. 27% Kindiki. Kenya headed in the wrong direction. A report card. Kenyans cite the high cost of living for their harsh verdict on the performance of President William Ruto's administration in the survey conducted from February 21st to 24th. Only 22% say the country is headed in the right direction, citing the prevailing peace for the views. All right, 60% of Kenyans believe that the country is not heading in the right direction. Percentage of people polled who say the country is headed in the wrong direction. What's your feeling? 60%? That's quite a number.
Yeah, it is. I'm actually surprised. It is. So apparently people are still hopeful.
Which people? 60%? No, 60% are saying it's heading in the wrong direction.
Oh, then that's correct. Me, I'm in that 60. I thought it was the other way around. I think that it's a difficult period actually, but I feel that it's happening. It's happening in other countries. It's global, but if our leaders are still in campaign mode, it makes it even worse. Because you just feel that people are not listening, or they don't have any clue of what's happening on the ground.
So you're in the 60%.
I am. Yeah, I am. There needs to be a quick turnaround. I mean, look, we are still waiting for announcements for positions. How long has the administration been there?
And you guys have been going to court every time that the government tries to announce.
Us guys, me.
Those guys in the civil, it was civil, not a civil court, whatever.
Yeah,
Those
civil
guys,
society.
The guys who fight government.
But it's not just the courts. The courts, it was the CAS case, and then there was the case on CDF, which are issues that need to be talked about. But there are other positions that people should be in office working, but they are vacant. Even board positions, they're just being announced left, right, and center on a weekly basis. It's very slow.
You'd have rather they've announced on weekend. All right, national news. Job losses as Egerton drops 8 courses. More than 200 employees of cash-strapped Egerton University are staring at job losses after the institution scrapped 8 degree courses yesterday. The crisis in our universities because of funding. Where do you think this is coming from? Actually, most of them are closing up.
Yeah, it's a struggle because, even you begin to question whether even those who go through university, okay, so let me be honest. By the time I hire somebody, I have to retrain them because even the students or the youth they are channeling out do not have the employability. Okay. So even these institutions, it's unfortunate what's happening and they're shutting down. But even the young people that they're channeling out, they are not people who can go into the workforce immediately. I advise people to retrain for about 1 year before employment. Some of them still struggle in terms of even that transition into the workspace. And it's not a generational issue. It's about the content and the material that is being given in the university settings. But there's also a lot of corruption that happens in the management of these institutions. And education is such an important aspect of building a nation because where else are we going to have the young people who build the vision and the dream of a nation unless it's in these spaces? A lot of these spaces have produced the national leaders that we have today. Okay. So if we don't have them building people, if we don't have them channeling out the right young people who can bear and carry this country, then the politics that we're seeing now might be the best that we see.
All right. Have you headphones on? Kuna mtu kwenye bunge. Headphones?
Oh.
Bunge la Mwananchi. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Nzuri sana Gerald.
Mambo. Naongea na nani?
This is Kabon Sara.
Sara, mambo?
Nzuri sana.
Karibu sana.
Asante, mimi nataka kuchangia vitu viwili tu. LGBTQ.
Okay.
Na mambo ya manufacturer.
Tuambie mami.
Sasa? Gerald, kuna vitu zingine. Lazima tuambiane ukweli.
Okay.
Tusifuate pesa ati kwa sababu bibi ya Biden amekuja. Tunaambia watu ya High Court wa ya Supreme wapitisha hii kitu inapitishwa ndio tupate pesa. Hiyo haisaidii.
Lakini kama tuko njaa Kenya, kwa sababu umeleta pesa ya drought.
Hata kama ni njaa Gerald, huwezi kuambia kijana yako na msichana yako kwa nyumba waoane ama msichana na msichana ama kijana na kijana. Huwezi, you cannot tell. You know some other things, we rather die, lakini Mungu ajue kweli tutaenda mbinguni tukiwa sawa. Lakini tusikuwe greedy kwa sababu ya pesa.
Okay.
And if these things could have been done when your mother and your father were mating, ungezaliwa.
Ndio ningekuwa happy kweli. Hata tako ningekuwa.
Tungefuata hiyo kipindi ya
tako. Kipindi ningekuwa ilienda kitambo.
Ingekuwa so tusijaribu kufuata pesa na nani Kaluma anasema anataka kuweka hiyo motion kwa parliament. We are all in support. Because even the president right now amenyamaza na sikula alisema is not talking about mambo ya LGBTQ sahihi. Sikula alikuwa anahojiwa huko ngambo. Kumbe alikuwa anajua hii ndio italeta pesa.
Ni kama hiki kitu ikifika mahali inakuwa ngumu.
Yeah.
Inakuwa ngumu aje Gerald kama Museveni amesema mkae na hiyo pesa yenu huko, acha sisi tuishi to survive na yetu. So anakula matoke saa hizi. Na matoke sisi ndio tunaenda kununua kama Kenya msitoka huko. Tuanze ikae si lazima.
Na kweli.
And let us teach our children moral science imejaa kwa kila shule.
So let me ask you, Sarah.
I was handling a case the other day, Gerald.
In school?
Watoto wamepotea na hata sisi wazazi hatujui.
Wow.
And with me, I had to go for some trainings nijue the signs of those things. Na nimejua. So nikipita hii town Eldoret nitajua hii iko kwa hii kampuni, hii hakuna kwa hiyo kampuni.
Sasa nikuulize, what was the case? What was the case that you had? What was the case? What was the specific case? What happened?
And you know, we need to be ahead of our children, Gerald. Hii watoto siku hizi ni digital. Watatuweka mfuko saa 6 kamili ukiona. So the only thing we need to be ahead of them. Hii si kama ile enzi yetu ya wazazi yenye walikuwa mbele yetu. Hao watoto wako mbele yetu saa hii.
No kweli. So let me ask you, Sarah. Hii kesi ulikuwa na deal naye ilikuwa inakaaje? Shida ilikuwa gani?
Kesi yenye ilikuwa na deal naye. The issue is this. Mama hana habari mtoto wako lesbianism.
Okay.
When I had to sit down with that child, na mimi naye kwa ukali yangu hii, the girl has to tell me she had at around eight boyfriends, and the 8 boyfriends are the girls, the women to women.
8 girlfriends.
And then I told this girl, can you call this one by one? She had to call. Na mimi naye akishamaliza namwambia unajua hiyo uhusiano wetu acha tu ikatike. Sioni tukiendelea. Unasikia? Na ule msichana mwenye anajibu huko na ameweka sauti, msichana huko karibu anakufa. Kusema kwa nini sasa? Yaani I was even shocked. Unajua I got tongue tied. Hii ilikuwa ni joke. Sijawahi sikia vitu kama hii. But I had to talk with the girl to take her to church. Afanyiwe deliverance. Msichana saizi amerudi ni msichana.
Wow.
Unasikia? These things are there and they are real. And let me tell you, Gerald, from junction ya Chepkoilel, unasikia?
Nakusikia.
Mali Kiloba alikuwa na kuendelea mpaka Chepkoilel huko chini. Hiyo ni kama saa zile mnaenda kununua sukuma kwa duka. Imejaa kujaa.
So now let me ask you, Nerima is raising an issue here on the issues of culture, that this is a culture that is actually developing very fast. And if you can imagine now, you're speaking from an area by the interior, you could imagine that the culture is still very preserved. I mean, you're speaking from an area that would totally, would be very reserved naturally. And, if you look at it objectively and ideologically, it will be very reserved. Yes. But now you're experiencing these cases. Kitambo ulikuwa nasikia ilikuwa ngambo kwanza. Ikakuja Nairobi. Ukasema ni ya watu wa Nairobi. Sasa imefika ground. So how do you deal with this culture? How are you going to fix this culture?
Hata kusema Gerald, some of us like the challenges, tulikuwa nasikia hizi huko mbali, tunasikia Nairobi, Mombasa, but now it is within us.
So how do you deal with that culture?
No, unajua vitu vingine we will go the style of Museveni. Hii watu wawekwe nyumba moja, hii wasichana na wasichana wawekwe nyumba moja. Kama watazaa, hapo ndio tutapitisha hiyo sheria. Hakuna uvembelezana. Hatuna shida, mimi hata nitakuwa mmoja wao kupitisha, lakini kama hakuna kuzaa. Kama na vijana nakuta hizi vijana nao ndio wanatumia pampers kuvaa kwa sababu huko nyuma mabreak zilikatika. Bana.
Umekataa.
Waambiana ukweli.
Haya, tuende kwa mambo ya biashara.
Sasa tuende kwa mambo ya biashara. Hapa vitu vingine hata mwambie mama asifunike macho. Hii mambo tuambiane ukweli.
Amesikia.
Na nataka kuleta mpaka watu sasa kwa hiyo studio Gerald, hata kama mimi najua unaogopa huwezi fungiwa. Hiyo studio huwezi fungiwa. Hiyo ni ya wananchi. Kabisa
ni ya wananchi kama serikali hii kufunga hii.
Hakuna mahali utatishwa. Tuko hapa
kama ni wananchi siwezi fungwa. Tunaweza fanya hata chini ya miti. Kama nyinyi mko hapa lazima tuendelee. Sasa
twende mambo ya biashara. Unajua mimi nimemaliza hiyo, twende ya biashara. Mambo ya biashara. Unajua mahali Ruto alikosea. Angetoa politicians kuweka hao kwa ofisi.
Okay.
Ya Mungu, wewe ulitoa ofisi, ukaweka kwa zizi la mbuzi. Hiyo mbuzi itabaki.
Tawa shida.
iko shida sasa ile Kiruto angefanya. We have two things, we have politician and we have leader. Na kila mtu aende na bila ile kitu alisomea. Sasa mwenye mnaenda kwa Moses Kuria anajua hata mambo ya trade kweli. Ama yeye alikuwa anajua ile akikwambia ya kunukumi. Ruto kitu ya kwanza alikosea. Angechukua professionals waingie mambo ya CS na CAS.
Okay.
Lakini mambo ya kuleta politicians atakuja kukua CS. Ya Mungu miguu zilikuwa upside down. No please. Na mimi najua saa hizi sisi ndio consumers ndio tunaumia. Sisi consumers ndio tunaumia.
Okay.
Because mimi siwezi enda kununua the same cloth, niende ninunue hiyo nguo, tuseme nguo hiyo ya product ya Kenya, ananiuzia na karibu 7,000. Alafu mchina anakuja ananiuzia na 2,000. Nitaenda gani Gerald?
Yeah, 2,000.
Nitaenda 2,000. Hiyo sienda hiyo ingine niende glass ama niende kisu ama niende hizi cutlery. Nitaenda the cheapest because sinisema hata ikiletwa kwa nyumba sibando itakunywa hiyo maji. Sibando itapakuliwa hiyo chakula. So mambo ya nini na wewe sienda kuita watu huko kufanya maandamano na kuambia kujeni twendeni kwa street. Tufanye nini? Hii maneno tulimaliza kitambo sana na waleta hao wa China si walifundisha. Tu hao ndio walileta wa China. Sasa hivi mnakuja kukataa kitu gani?
Sawa China wabaki wafanye biashara.
Tunaenda na maisha ile iko chini sasa hatubembelezi. Sababu maisha imekuwa ngumu kama mahindi sasa hivi imepanda ndio ile iko 600 kitu na walikuwa wanasema 5,000. Tunaishi wapi sasa hivi? People Kenyans now, if you tell me 95% Kenyans now, they only eat one meal.
Wow.
Which Kenya we going na unakuja kutuambia hapa phosphate imerudi chini. Unafikiri tutaenda mawe mpaka mwezi wa 9 ndio tuanze kukula?
Pole.
No, please, president asikie maneno na wakuja atetee wananchi waachana mambo yake na Biden huko. Hiyo mambo ya uchoga sisi hatutaki.
Wow, okay.
So, tukutane. Good day.
Asante. Thank you so much. Mama Sarah amekasirika sana. Mama Sarah is not happy. Not happy at all. Kasirika sana. Amesema nikuambie hiyo maneno wachana nayo. Na kama mnataka kuinsist mfungiwe kwa jumba moja alafu mkitoka na watoto hapo ndani. Ndio sasa tutaangalia maneno. Ametutaka leo kweli.
I know.
Amesema sasa kama ingekuwa hiyo maneno wazazi walikuwa wanafanya saa hii Nerima Wako angekuwa wapi? Yes, Bungala Manenchi. Good morning.
Hey Gerald.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. I can see you sweating.
Ai, nimesweat. Mambo imechamuka hapa.
Mambo ni moto. Hi Nerima.
Hi. How are you?
Wait. I'm very well. Things are hot. Things are hot. Even all the speech I had prepared has disappeared.
Mambo imechamuka maneno tumeambiwa hapa si kidogo.
Wait, Mama Sarah hacheki. She's not amused. So I think hata nimechukua a step back. I've taken a tactical retreat because I was like this, guns blazing with a whole lot of opinion, and now I'm thinking after her I should tone down here because like Gerald, you know my opinion on these issues, especially of LGBTQIA and the issues of China. You know my personal opinion, but after listening to her, I've realized we have to look at it from probably a different perspective. This is Africa. We are a bit of a reserved people. I still feel we need to put more emphasis on sex education as a whole, more than we need to put into, which side one is aligned to. Because do not forget, as much as we are really, really, really both about the lesbianism and homosexuality, we should also be concerned about the heterosexual behaviors that are not really pleasant, because it doesn't matter who you are doing with. It comes to a point that we have got to look at the way we are approaching matters about, mostly they are private matters. That's why umesikia hata Mama Sarah anakuambia ati tutaongea hautafungia, because she knows there are some things if we talk about them too much tunaweza jipata in a situation
mahali mbaya.
Yes, tunaweza jipata mahali pabaya. So we talk about these things tongue in cheek, tukiwa tu tumefunga emergency brakes, but it doesn't change the fact that It is a discussion that has been on the table, but we don't talk about it because of religiosity and culture, and also the fact that it is a taboo subject. It is not a subject that you can table easily, like we can table trade or we can table business. However, as present-day parents, one thing we have got to do, and I'll say this anywhere, even in church, even in a public forum, at the risk of blasphemy or being arrested, tolerance is something that we cannot debate with. Tolerance. It does not matter what that person is doing. Unajua hata mwizi, hata muuaji akipelekwa jela anapewa chakula. Hauliwangwi. Nowadays we don't even hang people. So let's start from there. That even if there are things that really in our constitution they are wrong, Gerald, we have to preach tolerance. Because the kind of language I see people using, especially online, that those people should be done, even Mama Sarah has said, those people should be done Museveni style. Museveni style essentially means if we catch people doing things that are unnatural, what do? Do we stone them like Stefano or Biblia? Ama what? No. That tolerance, we have to preach against it. Second thing, we have got to look at these groups as people who already exist, and if they are to be talked to, that whatever they are engaging in might be unhealthy, not we tell them that it's our culture. If we talk about culture, don't forget even English is not our culture and we are using it.
Yes.
So if we need to change and move our youth from this. Okay, I told you personally, me, Sionangi, what when I discuss your story, Nini, if somebody's private life is they're over 18. If they're under 18, we start looking at issues of defilement. However, because of now the concerns of people like Mama Sarah who are very conservative, let's look at if we are to want to preach against lesbianism and homosexuality. How do we approach it to our young people? Do we approach it to them that if you're caught, you'll be killed? Nerima, you grew up in an African setting. Unakumbuka vile auntie zetu walikuwa wanatuambia ukipatikana na kijana utachapo.
Kabisa.
Did we plan to get married?
Vijana vizuri.
Unapata njia.
Hata nikisema story.
Nasikia Nerima walikuwa wanaingia fence.
Hata wengine wetu tukataja stories zetu tutaharibu picha. So let me just say I'm a virgin, I'm a 42-year-old virgin. But my point
baby girl.
The point is the way we approach our youth, especially if we want to look at the health bit, like hivyo anasema wengine wanavaa diaper ya diada, now that becomes a health concern. The way we approach it to them is not by telling them we will kill you Museveni style. It has not worked with us girls vile tulikuwa tunaambiwa tutauliwa tukiolewa ama tukionekana na kijana wanani. And that was a kawaida heterosexual relationship. We have got to change tact. And I'm speaking as a parent because I have 2 daughters and a son. We have to change tact in the way we approach these people to make them have sexual responsibility. In fact, what we are looking at is not telling them A is sin and B is not sin. No. Sexual responsibility as a whole. That the way you conduct yourself when you're in a heterosexual relationship, it has got to be orderly and mannerly. Because even the kawaida relationships of sex can be wrong, isn't it? If you're doing it with a minor, if you're raping someone, you're forcing them to do something they don't want. Actually, even the reason why I'm normally jittery about the LGBTQ issue is because there are some women who complain that their men in their marriages are telling them to, you know, as I will say it on air.
Ni mapema.
Ni mapema ni zenena. But there are some things that we complain about in public, Gerald. Tunasema in public, but huku ndani chini ya maji. Nerima, have you heard of women saying, my husband asked me for the, rear entry?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, and then in public, we should, we are preaching water drinking. Why? And that is why this thing in India, because the more we talk about it in public, huku chini ya maji wale wana preach against it, they are doing it. Now that's the reason why. Because if really we were to preach against it with a good reason that indeed we don't want our children to wear diapers, that's a reason enough to tell your son, don't engage in this business, breaks zitaisha. That makes sense to me. But we are talking about it, and then behind the scenes, priests are asking our kids for you know what. Anga huku nyuma sijui unasikia sijui politician fulani amesemekana ruma. Sijui unasikia another influential business person hata yanaambua ni wasimu tu. Gerald, we are robbing Peter to pay Paul. Tunaifanya ile na Kikuyu inaitwa kuhorania. Like in public, you're speaking about something, in private, you're doing it. Otherwise, I don't know how I can explain vile imeingia. Our children are being influenced by people they look up to. Haven't you heard of prominent names being named with that, you know? Anyway, better to see belabor on it. It's a very sensitive topic. It cannot even be exhausted in 1 day or 2 days. Maybe to kimbia pale China Center. I don't want to talk about it. Surrounding that, I had a very rough day yesterday. I know right now I've realized the way you had mentioned to me earlier, it's a sensitive issue. It is kind of beyond us. Nerima has a good point. We need to regulate the way business is being done in Kenya. But look at us 60 years post-independence. The way we are doing business with foreigners, it's not something that can just, like this, we decide now we've started regulating the Chinese. I think it's a bit hypocritical. I love my Ruto. I have faith in Moses Kuria, and I have faith in this government, Gerald, but there is more than meets the eye in this China business. Our traders are trading with Chinese products at 100%. Those Nyamakini people. Na wanaekelea, Gerald, ujue mimi mwanabiashara, niko na kabiashara yangu kadogo, so I go for goods there, so I know kuwekelea yenye wanaekelea is not funny. You know what I mean by kuwekelea? You go buy a item at 50 bob in China, unanunua container mzima because you have your to few billions, ukifikisha Kenya, unaiekelea inakuwa 500. Mso akinunua akipeleka fika kuuzia wateja wake, anaiuza 600. Mchinese akiitoa huko anaitoa na 50 bob, akiileta China Square atauza na 200.
So where would you rather buy? Wewe umesema unafanya biashara. So where would you rather buy? Ungeenda Kamukunji ama ungeenda China Center? China Square.
Let alone that, even as a wholesaler, I will not go to Kamukunji to buy it at 500. Nikuje kuuzia watu fika 600. Nitaenda China Square, ninunue at retail price 200. Nikuje niongezee 50 bob, niambie watu hii ni fair badala uende uende KU.
Ama badala uende China. Tununue hapo. Theka.
My retail price will be lower than the wholesale price pale Nyamakima. Sisi wa Kikuyu ni wa ambitious. Wacha nikuambie ukweli. Because ni sisi tumejaa Nyamakima. The minute we see people are oblivious, and those Chinese products, they probably might not be very long lasting, but they are good stuff. Like ukiangalia the household equipment that we sell, sometimes even things as simple as your tablecloths or probably your kitchen towels. They are very good ones. In fact, they serve you. So people will always go for those instead of going for Rivertex products. Even if we try how much. Nilikuwa nimeweka hizi shati za wanaume tulikuwa tunaziita shati za uhuru. Mingi sana kwa shop yangu. Azikuwa hata zina impress watu sana kama hizi zenye za kutoka manchi za nje. Some funny Manhattan shirts that come from China. They are more or less the same price, but people they really are not as impressed by the Rivertex product. So I still have my Rivertex za late 2021. Na zile nilinunua China. Visha, in fact, zinaenda, unaona, I have my mtumba customers and I have my office customers. So those office customers, atakuja angalia hiyo shati ya Rivertex, atasema na kwani ni mzuri, ebu nipatie tule unanipatianga tu, really get for me. Then I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I'm a trader. At that point, what do I want? School fees for my children. Nitauza ile inaenda. Then nisikie kuna ingine inauzwa pale, instead of vile nanunuanga 500 nauza 700, nisikie kuna ingine inauzwa 200, so naweza uza 350. Gerald, nitaenda ninunue za 1100 walai. Niweke kwa duka, ningoje sasa mandume. Kwanza nianze kuwatumia WhatsApp. Zile shati za Manhattan I used to sell at 750, now I'm selling at 500. Na wao wakuja wanunue several pieces. I want to be fair to Moses Kuria. He has his reasons. We need to understand. I know at some point, government is going to let us know why hiyo vita inatoka wapi. But considering what I went through yesterday, nimekuja kurealize there is more than meets the eye. Hence, we need to evaluate. Also, mi wale watu wa kwenye makima wanakimbia jana. I called Gordon Opiyo, jioni. Because I wanted to look for somebody who we can talk to Wako kwa registrar. Because of the issue I was telling you about a gentleman who is saying, anaulizwa maswali, his number was used to register that company. Akaniambia, I think we need to let this thing be revealed slowly by government. Why, Gerald? Because we are looking at it from 2 different perspectives. In fact, 3 different perspectives. 1, as an ordinary Kenyan. 2, as a trader. 3, as a supporter of government. So when you're in that situation, you don't even know which side to take. We are beating about the bush. We are running around like headless chickens, and we don't even know. We're fighting cloak and dagger wars. We don't even know what we've lost completely what we are fighting for. I saw somebody today who is a government, a KK diehard, anasema ai nani kutetea hii serikali ni ngumu. I was like, ukiona huyo amefika hapo ameinua mikono.
Unajua iko shida.
Iko shida. We are in a situation, we are even unable to find out the truth of the matter because there's a bit of hush. So I'm thinking I don't want to be unfair to the government. I have
on that note, there is an infocta poll that came out. 60% of Kenyans believe that the country is headed in the wrong direction. Where are you? Are you at 40 or 60?
I think also people are being a bit rash to make a judgment because of the hope we had and because of the despair that we went through the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of despair in the last 4 years, actually. Mm-hmm. We didn't even have that much hope in the Uhuru government. It's only that they went below the bar that we had. We had set for them a low bar, but they went below it. Because of that disappointment, we looked at Ruto as a savior. It was not even like the Kibaki Tosha time. Mm-hmm. The hope people had in Ruto is that one, he's a Christian, he's a religious person. Two, ni msomi, ni mtu akona a head on top of his neck, he's a brainiac, he's somebody who can be able to crack the whip and make things work. Now, I have two opinions on that. One, as an ordinary person, I don't like the way things are going. I would have preferred they go in a more thorough way. Two, as a realistic person, it's too short a time. It's too short a time, Gerald, to be able to make a
problem.
In fact, for the first time in a long time, I'm a watermelon. I'm being true to my Kamba roots. Nimekaa hapo, siko red na siko yellow. Mimi na Kalonzo bumper to bumper hatuna direction. And it is because of good reasons. It is because I don't want to be quick to judge government, but I don't want to stick my head in the sand like an ostrich, like we did initially after handshake. Tulikuwa tunajiambia no, Uhuru can't mess. My friend, he messed like nobody's business. So I think we have PTSD. Tuko na ile post-traumatic stress disorder. So we wouldn't want this government to go wrong. Umesikia vile Mama Sarah amesema?
Yes.
We also made a mistake in picking CSs who are politicians. I don't really have a problem with CSs who are politicians because they were professionals before they became politicians. Mm-hmm. What I have a problem with is anybody who is going against the plan. We had the plan, it was a good plan, we should go with the plan, and emotions should be put in check, Gerald.
Okay.
Emotions should really be put in check from both sides. Serikali. But we need, I know at some point you will get us the CS of trade in studio, even if you're lewa makesha.
I've talked to him yesterday morning. Akaniambia the next interview he's doing is in 1st July. So all the horses and donkeys until July.
So it has to be after budget.
Yep, 1st July.
Wacha tutoe kajasho basi. In the meantime, I think we are going to even look for profession. Tuone nani atatuongelesha tutulie, both as people who have faith in this government and as business people. I've told you I've agreed with Nerima and her concerns with the business environment, especially for the youth when you wameingia kwa hustles, but also we need to be realistic. Usikute tunakimbizana na kitu yenye haiko. The traders in Nyamakima, Gordon mentioned to me yesterday, so the traders in Nyamakima are all in their shops. Hao watu wako kwa barabara sijui ni nani. So really as much as maybe walikuwa wana protest, ukiangalia
watu mambo ni mengi.
Nyamakima ate biashara yake aende akapige nduru kwa barabara. I have my doubt. Hata kupiga kura unakumbuka vile tuliwabembeleza watoke wakavote. We had to like really beg them. So sijui, I think it is something that is machinated. But anyway, let's look at it and the way it will go. And we are glued on the taco tuone utatuletea nani atuelezee tuone nini.
Sasa tunataka tuingie ndani ya serikali. Leta serikali kama na Nerima. Haya. Asante sana, thank you so much.
Nerima, we are looking at you. Aingie county offices kidogo aanze Kiambu County, aende hizi county Nakuru County. Siasa place ikiingia huko ndani ukute watu wako na mahali wanaweza peleka. Like I saw there was something that was supposed to be discussed in Sika. I think maybe it's this coming weekend. And I looked at the representatives who are there and there's not a good representative for you. So I'll get your contact from Gerald. I sent you that brochure because Siasa place needs to start going to the counties around Nairobi.
Town halls to have conversations with the people.
Thank you.
Yes, especially when
imani sana na Nerima. Shida tu ndio kuja andiko tena kwa CS. Alafu story. Haya, asante.
You tuachwe peke yao.
Yeah.
Hata ukienda CS, please, Siasa place iendelee kufanya kazi. Actually, we want you to go to the 47 counties, then tuanze kukusukuma. By the time 5 years ziishe, ukue kwa the 290 constituency.
Asante.
You have to, Siasa place has to grow. It has to grow. It's the hope for the youth.
Thank you.
Asante. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning to you. And thank you so much for calling in and tuning in as well this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you. Asante sana for that. Now, in other news, there's an uproar in Uganda. Apparently, Chameleon, Jose Chameleon, kissed the brother Whistle on stage. And there's an uproar in Uganda on that. And he has been forced to apologize. So, good man, just apologize. I'm apologizing. It is not of my. It was not on my leg. My love is good. Anyway, that tells you how things are going out there. Murithi, good to see you. Asante. Alan Koga from TCB Bomet. Asante. Imanji. Huyo Mama Sara umpe kachai. Mama Sara amemaliza kabisa. Budhani wajime, jasho imekudondoka seriously. Nikubaya, baka unakunywa utumaji. Things are very hot in the studio this morning. Even me, I'm sweating from wherever I am. The caller should come in person to studio. It's the issue of twin SIM. It's huge in USA that nowadays they are advocating for non-gender until your kid reaches around puberty. They are also passing laws in some states where they license clinics for blocking puberty in young kids. Wow. Well. Ende kolum tumepanda avocado, macadamia coffee. Tutauza wapi if the Chinese react to boycott the Kenyan products. Kolo, spoken Collins Kibet. Good morning, Gerald. I'm tuning from Kapsawad and Elgeyo Marakwet County. The issue of education system going wrong started when our politicians started prioritizing politics over everything. Zep. Andrew Colum, good morning. Listen, Gerald, kindly invite real. I think I've spoken on that. Okay. John Cherono henyewe, things are hot. Nikubaya, ni moto sana. Nerima. Mambo yako
ya mwisho.
As you also react maybe to the callers.
It has been such a vibrant morning today. I've enjoyed the conversation so much, especially toward the end from both callers, and just to reflect the fact that a large number of Kenyans feel that the country is not moving in the right direction. The country, the president, he has a lot of work to do to gather that trust. And in the middle of it, an opposition that seems to be gathering its energy, because toward the end of the election, there was a bit of a lull. So it's going to be challenging to change those numbers in the next few months.
Okay.
So for me, it's where the work that we do a lot is within the public participation. I know there are counties that are late. This year, they are quite late. Even with the CIDP plans, I was still waiting on Nairobi. Nairobi even submitted theirs late. And so you can see there's a lot of pressure, both nationally and within the county. But I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful, and I think that's just being Kenyan, where we wake up every day, every morning, and we go to work and we hope to make a living and a better day. And so that resilience for me it remains. And I'm hoping also the other tacklers, it's remaining. And I hope in the next 3 months we'll begin to see a bit of a shift rather than a downturn. So I'm hopeful.
Okay. We're all hopeful. Okay. Kaja Graphics, Mama Sara amewasha moto sana. Asante sana Mama Sara for calling in. Thank you so much, Nerima, for making time this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you. Asante sana. Thank you for the tacklers as well who have been in. Thank you for the callers. And thank you for everybody who has been online on both YouTube and Facebook. This has been the Siasa Wednesday edition of the 1st of March 2023. Thank you so much for making us up. And without you, the tackle could never be. Until tomorrow in Diaspora Edition, please make sure that if you're a diasporan, you are a Kenyan in diaspora, please join Kina Arama tomorrow, join Kina Chairman Joel Arama tomorrow, Kina Kaja Graphics, na hao wangwana wote watakuwa pale online kesho on Diaspora Edition. Until then, I want to wish you a very good day. Thank you so much for always being with us and for partnering with us. Take care and see you. Bye-bye.